Farron. Hannon. Euchman. Bauer. Chaplin. Cho. Dial. Quorum is present.
The third item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. I am going to ask for one amendment. That's going to be number 8. I thought it was, sorry. I can't see that well. I've got too many lenses in my glasses. Number 8, item F, that says contract for sale of real estate, and we're actually purchasing real estate, so we're going to scratch out where it says sale, replace that with purchase. So I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Our audience participation? Nothing. Moving on. Item 5 is our approval of minutes for the board meeting of April 26th, 2017, the open session minutes. If everybody had a chance to look through those. All in favor of approving those minutes, or I'm sorry, we need a motion for that. Motion to approve those minutes.
I move we approve the minutes as distributed.
Second on that. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. And our next item is the board meeting closed session minutes for April 26th. Motion to approve. Everybody's had a chance to review those. Matt? Okay. I'd ask for a motion to approve the closed session minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the closed session minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. For communications, Carl, anything? Anybody from the board have any communications? Okay, we'll move on to the...
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I don't have any communications, but I did want to take a moment at some point to introduce a new student representative from the Illinois student government, Jacob Breilich. He's taking over for Evan Bujak, so I just wanted to make sure the committee recognized.
Welcome, Jacob. I understand you're very interested in transit. Is that accurate? Excellent. We're very happy to have you here. We appreciate your being here. Thanks. You bet. And thanks, Brian, for that. We'll move on to the managing director's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Starting out with ridership, we are beginning to see the impacts from MCOR full force, and the April ridership was down 11.73% below April of 2016, and the year-to-date ridership is down 5.33%. So again, we have the same continuing aspects that we've been dealing with the very, very nice, beautiful spring weather that we all appreciate, the campus developments, and then to layer in on top of that MCOR. So I don't know that I'll be beating that over your head every month, but I might. Because that certainly is going to be having a demonstrative impact on our ridership from this point forward until the project is complete. Moving on to operating revenue. Revenue is up 3.2% as compared to April of last year, and for the year to date, it is up 2.1% from this point last year. And the operating expenses are 1.7% above April of 2016, and they are 2.4% above the year-to-date point last year. Our operating revenues are $445,549 above budget, and the expenses are $3,475,683 under budget. And with that, because we have such a full agenda, outside of any questions that you may have, I will leave it to the context of the agenda as items come up. So if you have any questions between this point and page 43, I'm happy to field those now. Otherwise, we can just move on.
Matt, go ahead.
Just one quick question on the ridership with MCOR, obviously in effect right now. How much is that decrease a percentage of MCOR or the weather or I guess other factors that I don't know off the top of my head?
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be able, well, I don't have any method for disaggregating the percentages. As you know, we've been trying to wrap our arms around what the causes have been, not only locally, but statewide and nationally as well with public transit. And though we can identify some of the factors, being able to assign a specific percentage to a particular factor gets to be a little difficult unless you start surveying people, which we have not done.
Carl, I would comment, the route that's going down Green Street that's being disrupted is our busiest route. Is that accurate? Close to our busiest route?
Well, the green route, which goes down Green Street, certainly is our busiest route, but we have many other routes
Sure.
in addition to that are second, third, fourth, right behind that use that same corridor.
Okay.
Maybe not second, but the third, fourth, and fifth busiest are on that same corridor.
Okay. And as far as you know, are they on time schedule right now, doing fairly well with MCOR as far as construction?
Boy, we just really ramped into the full Project 1 on May 22nd, so I think a week and a half into it, we're probably still a week and a half on schedule.
But that first phase that they did from, I don't know, I know they were running into some issues.
Yeah,
Here and there.
I haven't gotten a
Sure.
schedule update to indicate specifically if there's been slippage due to that. I don't know if Jane has anything to offer on that.
They're pretty much on schedule. They did fall a little bit behind in that first project, but they put in some extra hours and extra crew, and they're pretty much on schedule.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on Carl's report?
I would just say that the contractor is very aware of the schedule constraints that we have due to the Tiger funding. That Jane references them putting in extra hours, and I think they're doing that in an effort to stay on schedule.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Carl, following up Matt's point, do you have any kind of timeline? Granted, we have MCOR, the weather, some of these variables that but it would be interesting to start to plan maybe because this trend of riders down started before, of course, MCOR, correct? The weather, and it's been on ongoing decline. It would be interesting to start to maybe do some kind of preliminary survey, as you referred to it, to get a sense of, and maybe if this continues, to start to maybe do proactive policies to address this.
I think the time while MCOR is under construction is not the best time to be doing that because
Granted.
Things are so in flux. So over the next 3 to 5 years, while MCOR is going to be having an impact on us, we're not, even if we survey people, we're not going to get useful information because things are changing so rapidly and so dramatically that their responses will be out of date very quickly. So it's when we get on the other side of MCOR and we let things settle, then we can start having those kinds of activities take place.
Very good.
Anything else from the board for Carl? Okay. We'll move on to board committees. Our first committee report will be from administration, and that'll be on the fiscal year 2018 budget. Bruce.
I just wanted to say Carl's met with all of the board in pairs or singly and discussed the budget details. And so Carl, take it from there.
All right, thank you. Hopefully, between our individual conversations and then just being in the board packet, hopefully everybody's had a chance to review this. Just as a reminder, this year's budget is a 3% decrease from last year's budget. And, you know, we walked through the individual departments, and so I can answer any questions that have cropped up since we last talked about it.
Anybody have anything for Carl on the budget? Seeing none. Move on to Facilities Committee report. Matt? Report for facilities?
Let's see. To keep it brief, we discussed a lot of the ongoing projects that are happening. I believe there's some 803, is that the right address, nearing completion. And along with other downtown, both Urbana and Champaign, progress is being made on both. So.
And service delivery, Margaret.
No report.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 8, our action items. And our first action item will be the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Substance Abuse Policy and Program Update.
Okay, as you see on the memo for the substance abuse policy update, most of this is just a change in dates and some minor language changes, and then new signatures that are a result of the change in some of the staff positions, but also change in board positions. And so there's no real substantive change to this substance abuse policy. And as a reminder, this is in response to a variety of laws and regulations that we have to comply with to be eligible for federal grants primarily. And so we have been doing this for many years, and this is just a minor update to it.
With that, I'd seek a motion to approve the updating of the substance abuse policy.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of updating the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Substance Abuse Policy and Program, vote aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the ascertaining the prevailing wage document. Margaret.
Yes. You were handed a revised list and resolution when we came into the room. That's because we discovered today that new numbers had been posted. In light of that, I move that we approve the resolution that was handed out to us at the meeting, ascertaining prevailing wages as released by the Illinois Department of Labor and effective June 5th, 2017.
Anyone like to second that motion? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Jim?
Does the fact that the MTD is non-union have any impact on prevailing wage?
The short answer is no, because this prevailing wage is actually probably set up for people that are going to be doing work for us, not our own employees. Is that accurate, Jennifer?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is it's set by statute, so it's any work to be performed on public works projects, so not necessarily determinative what type of union or bargaining unit or non-bargaining unit an employee is in.
And as Margaret mentioned, these are new numbers that were just posted today on the Department of Labor website, so we wanted to have the most accurate figures. So these are not the exact same figures as what is in your board packet, and also what was posted online on our website. So we'll probably update that so we've got accurate documentation on the website, so everything looks correct. Any other board comment on this particular item? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the Prevailing Wage Act, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the Developmental Services Center contract. Who's going to handle that, Carl?
Yes, sorry.
It's okay.
The Developmental Services contract is a contract that we've had with DSC since the early 90s after the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it is a coordinative effort for us to meet the requirements of the ADA, for us to meet the requirements of the ADA, and for DSC to provide the best possible transportation services for their client base that they can. And so this contract reflects a route change for DSC, but outside of that is very, in context, is very similar to last year's, and the increase is a result of that route change.
Any questions for Carl from the board on this item?
I would move approval of this contract.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded for approval of this contract. Any other board discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the Champaign County Rural Transit System contract. Carl.
All right, this is a renewal of the contract with Champaign County to provide their C-Carts service, which is the rural transportation. So this is the transportation that falls outside of the district boundaries. So we directly provide the transportation within the boundaries, and the county then has opted to provide a level of transit service outside of the district. But they contract with us to provide the service. So it's a county service that is funded by grants that the county has, but we are the vendor or the contractor for the operators and the provision of the service, and that's what this contract is for.
Any questions for Carl on this item?
I would move approval.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with the DSC and the United, or I'm sorry, for C-Carts. I'm back on the last item. Champaign County for C-Carts.
Can I just say, I think this is this and the other contract too are great examples of the cooperation with MTD and other entities and intergovernmental cooperation, because we are doing what we do best, which is transit, and allowing these other agencies to focus on what they do best.
That is a great point, Linda. Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our next item is our financial audit services contract.
The the audit contract is, we've used Clifton Larson for the last 5 years, and they have done a great job and been a good auditor for us. But the federal government recommends that every 5 years we go out to bid for new audit services. And I think the idea behind that is that if there's an effort of collusion between an auditor and staff, then you want to change up those auditors every now and again so that would bring that collusion to light. And so that was the reason that we that we went out with an RFP, and we are recommending that we award the contract to Martin Hood Freese, which is a local firm, and that is the firm that had the contract prior to Clifton Larson. So the auditors know that this, there's nothing personal about this. It's just part of the public side of doing business, and so it's routine.
Any questions for Carl on this item right now? Jim?
You had your hand up.
So there was no issue with Clifton Larson, it was more U.S. government, maybe not mandate, but encouragement to shift every 5 years?
That is correct.
In a perfect world, would you have continued with Clifton Larson? Or would we, you think?
I mean, I think the suggestion by the FTA is a good suggestion, and I think that it's always better to be safe than sorry and to not create opportunity for collusion or areas of financial problems. And so I think it's healthy to do what we're doing. And, you know, at the end of this contract with Martin Hood, I would expect that I would absolutely count on Clifton Larson being a bidder again, or a proposer on it again. So I would still do it. Absolutely has nothing to do with Clifton Larson. Any more than 5 years ago, it had to do with anything that had to do with Martin Hood when we disengaged from Martin Hood and went with Clifton Larson, and now we're going back to Martin Hood. So it's certainly not related to either of those firms in any way, or the third firm that proposed.
Right, and that's essentially then why Clifton did not submit a bid.
Correct.
They just said, well, somebody else will grab the baton, if you will.
Yeah, it's not that we are that we would be unable to award the contract to them, but it's just not generally recommended that we do so.
Got it.
Carl, just as a matter of curiosity, how much did we pay Clifton Larson compared to this? I assume this is an increase, but
It is, but it's very small, and I don't know if I can tell you the exact amount. We just, I don't know. I'm going to say that it was in the neighborhood of 18,000. The last one with Clifton Larson. Is Jolene here? Do you remember?
I think it might have been around 21, 22,000.
Oh,
So I think
we didn't have a single audit though, did we?
we did not.
Okay. Well, I'm way off then, and so they're much closer than I thought they were. Even.
The new bids are maybe $2,000 to $3,000 different per year.
Any additional questions for Carl? I'd ask for a motion to approve this item. It's been moved and seconded to approve Martin Hood as our new auditors. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item, item F, is the contract for purchase of real estate at 209 South Water Street here in Champaign. Carl.
This is the last parcel of property that is within the block that is bounded by the railroad tracks east of Illinois Terminal, and then Water Street to the east of the railroad tracks, and Chester Street to the north, and Logan Street to the north. And so that gives us the entirety of the block from a planning perspective to land bank that area if we end up needing that land for future projects or future expansion of Illinois Terminal or parking for Illinois Terminal.
We've discussed this in great detail. Any questions for Carl on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask approval of Resolution 2017-3. Approve. I'm sorry, we have to have a motion for that first. I'm trying to move fast. We have a motion. How about a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2017-3. All in favor say aye.
I need a roll
All
roll
opposed?
call.
Oh my gosh, we have to have
I'm sorry, who was the first? Who motioned that? Okay, thank you.
Margaret.
was
I think you were.
I?
Okay. Farron? Aye. Hannon? Yes. Bauer? Yes. Chaplin?
Yes.
Cho? Dial.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Beth. Next item is rejection of bids for the Illinois Terminal boiler replacement. And
I'm going to
authorize
turn
and
it over.
rebid, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I
Authorize
was
and
just
rebid.
going to say, I'm going to turn it over to Jane for
Jane's
the
going
next
to handle
couple.
the next couple items here, looks like.
Just hanging out. All right, so I'm on item G, which is page 187 in your packets. So what we're talking about here is the Illinois Terminal Boiler Replacement Project. Again, we spoke about this in March when you approved a contract with Reliable Plumbing and Heating for this project. At the same time that we ask you for approval, we ask IDOT for approval. And in the time since we received your approval, IDOT got back to us and they didn't accept the good faith efforts that Reliable submitted for not achieving the DBE goal. They gave us some options here, and you'll see those in that section E of my memo. So the first option was allowing Reliable to submit additional information on their DBE efforts. We started with that option. Reliable submitted some additional information. We submitted that to IDOT. IDOT did not accept that. So we move on to option 2, where we could award the contract to the next low responsible bidder. You'll see on the bid tab that the next low bidder is almost $44,000 higher than Reliable's bid. So that didn't seem like a good option for this one. So now we're on option 3, where we relet the bids, making sure that bidders understand the requirements for good faith efforts when you do come short of the DBE goal. So that's what we're presenting here today. Are there any questions?
Are the bids from all these people the same amount they bid the last time? That's question number 1. And question number 2 is, I can't understand why they're so wildly all over the map. I mean, from $129,000 to $197,000. That seems like a huge spread.
So to answer your first question, we've only gone out to bid once for this project. We have not yet gone out to bid a second time. That's what we're asking for today. So the bid tab you're looking at in your packet is the first and only bid opening. It does seem odd to us. The 2 lowest bidders are relatively close. The lowest bidder, Mechanical Inc., didn't submit any DB paperwork, actually mentioned when they showed up to the bidding, oh shoot, I left it at the office. So those 2 low bidders are relatively close. That's all I can really say.
I
Yeah.
had a question. It looks like the DBE requirement, regardless of the amount, is really jacking the price up. Is
I'm
that
sorry,
what
I
you-
didn't catch that last part.
Well, the top 3 bids, 176.9, 192, 197.5, are all with DBE of one degree or another. So is it the DBE really that much leverage on these things?
When you add DBE participation to a project, it can increase the price. I can't say for sure if that's what happened here, but that is one of the potential effects of DBE participation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and is it possible that we go ahead ultimately without any DBE?
For this project, because of the specific funding source, we do not have the ability to go out to bid without a DBE requirement. When we talk later about a different project, which is a different funding source, we do have that ability, but not with this project.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Jane, do you know the nature of the good faith efforts that Reliable Plumbing and Heating Company did participate in?
Yes, I do. So there are 2 different DBE certifications in the state of Illinois. For our IDOT funded projects, we can only accept the IDOT certification for DBE. Reliable's efforts, to summarize, were that they reached out to DBEs on that other list and asked them if they were also certified on the IDOT list. What they didn't do is reach out to that IDOT list. Jennifer looked at it quite a bit. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, I would say so. There are a whole host of factors in the federal regulations, ways that vendors can show good faith efforts. One of them is to contact people on this IDOT list. There are a host of other ways you can show good faith efforts. That is the one that Reliable used. But as Jane said, they used contractors who were on one list, not on the other list. And I believe that IDOT also pointed out that they didn't provide proof that they reached out to the contractors. They just said, we reached out to the contractors on this list, but there was no documentation to show who they contacted, what the response was. So that was IDOT's conclusion.
So essentially, Reliable didn't jump through all the hoops that they needed to do for this project. Is that accurate?
They didn't fulfill the
Are
DBE
you
requirement.
anticipating, so my next question is, are you anticipating them having a different result next time we go out to bid? Or how do you think this might potentially work out differently?
Yeah, so we've communicated with them on where they fell short of the good faith efforts. I think they have a good understanding of what they needed to do to get there. Having 0% DBE participation is acceptable if you go through the effort and show proof of that. And I believe they understand that.
Sure.
One more thing sorry to interrupt here, but one more thing I'll add that IDOT said in response, they, and this was actually on a later project, but along the same lines of what shows good faith efforts. They said they also looked to whether other contractors were able to secure the DBE goal. And, you know, if, for example, here, 3 of the contractors were able to get DBE participation, then they said, you know, the fact that you had 0 shows that you didn't make that effort if other contractors on a similar contract were able to.
Sure, okay. Brian?
While I might be reiterating and underlining the point just made, there have been some discussions as a board about DBE requirements in recent months, and I'd like to reiterate that I think that it's an important part of the process and one the board should embrace.
Thanks, Brian. You got anything else for us on this item? Jane?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I had a
I'll ask
question.
Matt.
I was wondering if the DBE lists that contractors are required to contact, you said there's 2 lists. Why isn't the district assisting some of these contractors with that list to say, here is who you should contact to fulfill your DBE requirement? I understand that you might need some sort of certification, which is another hoop to jump through, but I guess the act of actually contacting these contractors, if we already know that, is there some type of education that MTD could do to help these contractors fulfill the DBE requirement more easily? It seems like, you know, we keep coming back to this, and if it's a operational problem, maybe there's something that the district can do to assist, I guess, when these bids go out, so that we don't have to keep reletting these out.
Yeah, that gets into a little bit of dangerous territory. You want to be fair to all potential bidders and give them all the same information. So to feed them DBEs and hold their hand through the process, in my opinion, is a little risky. You don't want to, of course, show any evidence of favoring one bidder over another and giving one bidder more information than another. So the way this works is that there's a website. IDOT has a website of all their certified DBEs. I give contractors that website. It's a pretty easy website to use. You type in the type of work you're looking to subcontract out, and it comes up with a list of all the certified DBEs. Each contractor can use a subcontractor, a DBE subcontractor, for example, for any piece of the project, for trucking, for supplies, for excavation, whatever it might be. There are so many options. So what I do to help in this process and to encourage DBE participation is point them to that website, help them understand what they need to do to fill out the forms properly, help them understand what constitutes a good faith effort. So that kind of general information is what I'm willing to provide.
So I guess my next question, so in the bid guidance, is it specific as to which group that they should be trying to pull from, or is there anything along those lines?
No.
So, so if we're using state funding for IDOT money,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's what I'm getting
I
at.
misunderstood your question. It is very specific that they need,
So they
that
should know.
only IDOT certified DBEs count towards their goal.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was getting at. and
Thanks.
I assumed that that was how it was, but I wanted to be sure. Okay. Jim?
Again, to follow up, I thought that was an excellent point, Matt. You're right that you don't want to show favoritism, but it would seem to me a very nice thing to do, because this whole process is almost becoming comical in my mind. I mean, it's just reinventing the wheel. Perhaps you could have a little seminar, offer it to everyone, go by some of the missteps, and everybody has access to that information, so we could put this to rest. And people who are serious about fulfilling then can. But it's like a dream that does not go away.
So for this project, and for many of our projects, we have what's called a pre-bid meeting, and I verbally explain the DBE requirements. They're written in the invitation to bids, but I verbally explain them. I make a few clarifications on common mistakes. One of the weird things is that if you use a supplier as a DBE, they can only 60% of their participation can count. So something weird like that, I explain. I go through the forms, but to go through all of the possible activities in a contract, all the possible options for a subcontractor is not something I do.
I was speaking in terms of general missteps that occurred.
And I do cover those in a pre-bid meeting, yes.
Anyway, anything that can be done to move this along, I think would
course.
be appreciated.
Yeah, I agree.
Linda?
Well, I just want to comment. I don't have experience in this specific thing, but I do have a lot of experience through my career in customer support. And this is kind of software related, but what I have found is a lot of times you can tell people and you can tell people and you can send people information, and either they don't read or they don't absorb. So it kind of sounds like we're directing people in the right way, and we're not the only ones that are using government funding for projects. So if people are not abiding by the rules, I don't think it's necessarily MTD's job, above and beyond what Jane is doing, to take them by the hand and say, here's what you do, or do it for them. So, you know, I think we're doing the best we can given how people react to information.
And I think the reality is these people bid on government, just like you just said. They bid on this work all the time. They're just not doing it. It's not that they're forgetting to do it or they're doing it wrong. They're just not following through on it. They do this every day. So,
I have one comment.
Matt?
Just in general, I assume that DBE is a good thing that we're adding to these contracts. However, I hear that there's a limitation of what the district can do to hold the contractor's hand in order to fulfill that requirement. However, I also think it's wrong to re-let something to remove requirements so that we can get a lower bid price. That doesn't reiterate a DBE requirement. It simply makes it easier for a lowest bidder to basically earn their contract. So I would say if the district wants to be consistent with a DBE policy or to reward disadvantaged business enterprises as a participant in a contract, then going with the ones that actually fit, no matter if the price is higher, I think that's something that teaches other contractors that maybe this is a requirement that the district takes seriously. However, if we're going to continue to re-let things, then really the DBE thing is simply a requirement that we're willing to bypass. And I'm talking about this for a future thing.
Yeah, just to clarify, we aren't asking to relet these bids without the DBE requirement. That's not what we're asking here.
Because you need the DBE requirement on this particular project because of the fund source.
Painful, but A&R seems to have met the requirement, and even though it is significantly more, I don't know what we're doing here, I guess, and just reletting it out. What's going to happen?
Well, it's sort of the same issue we addressed before of whether you keep going down the list or whether you do the whole process all over again. I mean, that was the issue that was brought up with the demolition, that instead of sort of erasing everything and starting all over again, you just keep going down the list till you find one that suits. I don't have an opinion on that. I'm just saying that yeah, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman?
Brian?
Jane, would it be accurate to be reading the base bid amount and the alternate bid together, that should, as we're evaluating these? So 119,480 for reliable plumbing and heating, is that, am I understanding how to read this correctly?
You're on it.
I think you might be looking at the next one.
Oh,
We
yeah.
don't have a.
And it's very confusing because reliable bid on
Is the
both.
bidder on both?
Yeah, but I think you're looking at the next one. So
My
page 189 is the bid tab I'm talking about right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If there's no further board discussion, I'll ask for a motion. Yep, Margaret?
I want to understand what we're doing here. We are dumping all this and starting over again. Is that right, on this particular bid? We're not going to go to number 3 or number 2. We're going to ask everybody to bid again?
That's
Is that
correct.
Okay.
That will be up to the board's motion, so I'll ask for a motion. Linda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reject the current terminal boiler replacement bids and that the board authorize rebidding this work.
It's been moved and seconded to reject this bid and authorize staff to work up a new bid program on this. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the Administration Operations Air Conditioner Unit Replacement Contract that Jane's going to handle. That's number H, or letter H.
Yeah, so this is pretty similar to what we were just referring to. This is a different project. We're talking about the rooftop air conditioning unit at our admin facility. It happened that Reliable also had the lowest bid for this project. Because it was, and I'll add that we determined that we would not move ahead with the alternate bid. So all we're looking at is the base bid amount here. And because that's under $100,000, I did not have to ask IDOT for approval of this award. They approved the project before we went out to bid, but I didn't have to go to them for approval for the award. I waited to award the contract because I was sensing this issue that IDOT was having with Reliable's good faith effort documentation for the other project. They submitted the exact same good effort documentation for this project. So I held off on awarding that, and with IDOT's determination on the boiler contract, I also do not believe that we can award this contract to Reliable. So we went through the options that IDOT provided again. We already talked about option number 1. Reliable provided this additional effort, additional evidence of their effort, which IDOT still rejected. Option 2 here, which is the next lowest bidder, is much more reasonable for this project. E.L. Pruitt was just a little over $1,000 above Reliable's bid. They came a little short of the DBE goal, but provided adequate good faith efforts in this case. So we're recommending award to E.L. Pruitt for this project.
Questions for Jane on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve a contract with E.L. Pruitt Company for a new air conditioning unit for 1101. Is that correct? 1101?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the Illinois Terminal Lavatories and Hand Dryer Contract. Jane.
Yes, so I'm on page 209 now. This bid went much more smoothly than the others. We received, this project is for replacement of the lavatories and hand dryers on the first and second floor of Illinois Terminal. These are as old as the building, so 17 years old, and as everyone knows, being a highly traveled public facility, we have some damage and some old age. So we're looking to replace those now. We received 3 bids for this project. The low bid was submitted by Davis Hauk, $27,290. And when you look at the bid tab, you'll see that bids were all 3 bids were pretty close, and we had some good DBE participation with this one. Davis Hauk exceeded the DBE goal, and so that is our recommendation now.
Questions for Jane on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion for approval. It's been moved and seconded to approve a contract for the Illinois Terminal Lavatories and Hand Dryer Replacement. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is item K. Rejection of the 59... Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped right over the truck. I was so anxious to get to the other item.
We're all excited about that one.
Yeah, and I have it out of order in my packet, so I have it in front of me here. I'm sorry. Somehow, I don't know how I managed to do that. Is it on the back side of this? Yeah. For some reason, I don't seem to have that page in my packet.
I got a question for Jane. Does this project require DBE participation?
Which project are you talking about?
Chester Street property, water and...
We're not talking about that yet.
Oh,
We're
sorry.
not talking about that yet, sorry.
Oh,
I misguided you, I apologize. So the item before the board is the approval of the maintenance truck replacement contract. Jane.
Yes, so I'm on page 211. We're looking to replace a maintenance truck. Our maintenance department has a fleet of four trucks with plows on them used for daily maintenance and, of course, snow plowing in the winter. This particular truck is 15 years old, in poor condition. It's eligible for replacement. So we went out to bid for this purchase. We received 2 bids. They were very close to one another. And a requirement of the funding for this project is that it's complete by June 30, 2017. Rick Ridings was able to meet that deadline, commit to meeting that deadline. Champaign-Chrysler was not. We gave both bidders an opportunity to spend some time seeing that they could commit to that, and unfortunately, Champaign-Chrysler wasn't able to. So Rick Ridings is just a couple $100 above Champaign-Chrysler, and so that is our recommendation.
Questions for Jane on the maintenance truck replacement? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion for this item. It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of a maintenance truck for the maintenance department at the MTD. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now
I
on
get to ask the
to
question.
my favorite item on
Is
the agenda.
DBE required on this water and Chester Street property demolition?
The DBE goal is not required for this project because of the particular funding source. As we talked about at a previous board meeting, we did include a goal in the original bid letting. As I'm sure everyone remembers, we asked, I guess that was the March board meeting, we recommended to reject all of those bids because of multiple bidders, the majority of bidders having confusion about what DBE paperwork needed to be submitted with the bids. So we went back out to bid. This time we received 3 bids. You'll see that on page 213. The low bidder, ICD Iron Horse, did not fulfill the DBE requirement and didn't provide adequate good faith efforts. The same thing is true for the next low bidder, Owens, and then the highest bidder, as you see, is over $50,000 higher, and so our recommendation is to reject the bids and rebid, and to eliminate the DBE requirement for this particular project.
Questions for Jane on this item?
I don't really have questions, but I was the one at that meeting that suggested we add the DBE. So it seems like it's been more of a complication than an asset. So I would support a motion to rebid this without the DBE since it's not required. I'm really amazed at the span between the 2 lower bidders and the high bidder too.
Matt?
If you were to resubmit this without a DB requirement, what steps or policies are there that MTD is using to ensure that minority or disadvantaged businesses are, I guess, getting an opportunity?
We have a clause in the bidding documents that states our support and our encouragement of participation for disadvantaged minority businesses. The only difference would be that there would be no specific percentage goal required.
And I guess compared to the first time that we bid this out, what is the difference between that low bid and what Iron Horse or Owens Excavating and Trucking has provided?
It's very close. I don't think I have it in here, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but Owens Excavating and Trucking, if I'm remembering correctly, was the low bid on the first one. Does that seem right? Yeah. So, very close.
At 38,145?
Yes.
So if this project requires no DB requirement, and we were to re-let it out, and all 3 submitted the same bids, then it would go to Iron Horse?
That's correct.
And since this doesn't require DBE, but we have done this now, are planning to approve it for the 3rd time, should we just approve Iron Horse as the winning bid, since, like you said, this doesn't require DBE?
We could ask Jennifer and Carl their opinion on that, but I would think that wouldn't be fair to the other bidders. Deuce Construction Company, for example, could say, if I didn't think there was a DBE requirement, my bid would have been lower.
And just to add on to that, more to the point, the first time we bid this, Matt, we received 7 proposals, and this time we received 3. So I think we could make some presumption that 4 proposers decided to not bid the second time because of the DBE requirement and the problems associated with that. And then if we awarded a contract in a process that required DBE, so they didn't bid, but we awarded it without the requirement, we've completely gone off the reservation. We've completely gone off base with what a fair, competitive proposal process should be. You see where we kind of get caught there?
Kind of, but I just see inconsistencies of what we just approved for Reliable to resubmit a 0 DB participation, even though their good faith effort was rejected by IDOT. I feel like that's a second chance.
And the reason that is the case is because they are 2 different kinds of projects with different sets of requirements.
Right.
If this were the same type of project as the other one, then the DBE would still be a part of it, and we would go through the process again with DBE. But since it is the type of project that it is, which is an operating project, it doesn't have the DBE requirement. And so it affords us an opportunity to streamline the process and try to get this done as quickly as possible, because we need to get these buildings taken down.
And if that's the case, then I would say I would be in favor of approving ICD Iron Horse today and be willing to put in that motion.
I don't know if we have do we have the legal standing to go around our original motion like that?
No, and I would echo what Jane said, that typically the test for going back out for a public bid versus negotiating once you've received bids is what you're doing going to unfairly prejudice another bidder or another potential bidder. And I think that's absolutely correct, that if we were to say, okay, we're just going to negotiate with the people who have submitted bids this time, there may be other bidders who have said, you know, I would have bid had I known, or I would have bid had the specifications been different. So I think it's the most transparent and the most equal route to go to relet and have everyone have an opportunity to submit on the same terms. And we could have some liability from another vendor if we were to do something like that, who could say, you know, I would have bid had I known, or I would have bid had the specifications been different. So you could open yourself up to liability on that front.
Brian, do you have a question?
Maybe more of a suggestion, but it's my understanding of the DBE requirement is that it's an incentive or a way of trying to get businesses to do the right thing, to be inclusive, to make good faith efforts to be more inclusive. And I just think that, you know, as an employer in this community, the MTD might have some obligation to encourage people to try to do the right thing, even if they fail. And I think that it's a profound statement for the MTD board to continue in that direction, to say we would expect that businesses with whom we do business at least make a good faith effort to try to be inclusive. And so I just think that it's a good practice. I think it's regrettable about the way that the first situation turned out, and it appears that the one who would have won that bid process has let his DBE certification lapse. But nevertheless, I think that it's a statement of principle is what DBE is, and it's just about, as the chair mentioned earlier, about doing the right thing and making sure that all of the documentation is provided. So I just think that given we started down this path, and I'm only in an advisory capacity and don't vote, I just do feel like that's a reasonable thing for the board to continue to consider in this and other bids. Thank you.
Other board discussion?
Brad,
Jim?
I heard what you said, Brian, but I also think we have an obligation to the taxpayers and the users to provide the best services at the best cost. And, you know, we could get into a social justice issue. That's basically what you're waving right there. And I don't think that's what the MTD is. I think it's part of, as I think someone mentioned, it's part of our policy statement. But to do that, as opposed to honoring the most competitive, most capable thing, I think we're missing the point.
I don't think I disagree with you at all. My point is not that we would be awarding to a higher bidder, but just require that all bidders meet a certain standard or at least try to do so. And so I think that the taxpayers and students who support this fee have expectations about the manner in which we conduct our business as well. And so it's not saying that disadvantaged business enterprises have to be the ones that are awarded. It just says that in order for everyone to play in this game, they have to make an effort to do so. And I think social justice is a laudable goal.
Any other board discussion? I'll ask for a motion to approve the rejection of the demolition bid for 59 East Chester and 207 South Water Street.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other board discussion? Linda?
I agree about the DBE issue as well. In this particular situation, time is of the essence because we've got property that needs to be demolished, and this has been going on for a while, so I am going to support this motion.
And I'll just add, I want to apologize to staff for, we took the wrong tact on this. I think we had the right idea in mind, but obviously I'm not for going against a staff recommendation. So I appreciate the input that you provided before, and I'm sorry we didn't follow it. At this time, I will ask for your vote on this item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Our next item, I don't see any other items, thankfully. I do have one thing I want Lisa to come up and discuss very briefly. She has a challenge for the board. I can't believe you didn't bring the trophy with you, but I should have prompted you, I'm sorry.
Just kind of a fun announcement. MTD is participating in United Way's Day of Action with a pencil drive. So next Tuesday, we'll be collecting pencils at the front desk at 11:01. And we have, a big, ridiculous, giant pencil trophy that we'll award to the department that donates the most pencils. Those will go to local kindergartners and their families for kindergarten preparedness. And you can drop them off again next Tuesday, June 6th. And I challenge the board to participate as well.
I asked Lisa to bring this up to us, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to participate with the employees in a challenge. So I'll ask any board members that are available to go out and buy. Do we have specific pencils we need to buy?
Number 2 pencils that are new. Oddly, we got a question about new or old. I think we should give new pencils.
So if board members have an opportunity to run through a office supply store or some other store and pick up some pencils, take them out to 11:01 and drop them off and let them know they're coming from a board member, and we'll participate in the program. Okay?
So what was the date?
Next Tuesday, June the 6th.
So no mechanical pencils, you want wood pencils?
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it. All right, our next meeting is going to be an annexation public hearing. That'll be Monday, June 12th, and that'll be from 4 to 6. That'll be at Fire Station 6. That's at 3911 West Windsor in Champaign, out by the YMCA. I mentioned to Carl yesterday in our kind of pre-meeting, the only issue that we have with the facility is we can only have about 40 members of the public in the room at the same time with us because of our size of our board. We're only allowed to have 50 people in the room due to the makeup of the room. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the number of people in the room. Anybody have any questions on our annexation meeting? Is everybody going to be able to come to that? Anybody not going to be available? Okay. The next item is the auction of 64 East Chester. That's the Bush Brothers building. That'll be Thursday the 22nd, 3 o'clock at Illinois Terminal. Anything you want to add about that, Carl? Getting any feedback from anybody on that?
I'm not really hearing anything directly, but really I shouldn't be. It
Sure.
should be all directed
Sure.
to the auction services.
And they've
I
had,
assume
they've
it
had a
is.
couple walkthroughs there, is that right? Couple open house kind of things? Is that accurate?
There is an open house or a walkthrough. I don't think it's occurred yet, and I don't know the date of that off
I was
the top
looking
of
at
my
their listing. I
head.
thought they had 2 different ones scheduled, but
It's possible.
I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong all day, so. Yeah. Then our next item, our regular board meeting will be, our Board of Trustees meeting and a public hearing for the fiscal year 18 budget and appropriation ordinance will be Wednesday, June 28th at 3 o'clock right here in the Champaign City Council chambers. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session to consider litigation.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn in closed session to consider litigation which is probable or imminent against the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District, followed by adjournment.
We'll need a roll call on this item.
Farron? Aye. Hannon?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Chaplin? Yes. Cho? Yes. Dial?
Yes, we are adjourned to closed session.